see Freeman Rockdale. Thank you for joining me today on this podcast. You've had a lot of interesting uh, hobbies and careers and so forth, and I think everybody would like to know a little bit more about you and the things that you're up to. I know you're quite a cook. I've tried to twist your arm into writing a cookbook or a book about cooking a few times. You,
It's something that I really enjoy. It's I guess some people are artists in the respect they can write, paint a picture or write a book. And I guess my art is in preparation of food, which I really enjoy. And our friend Audrey,
Mhm.
aka Audrey, has directed me towards a low oxalate type of cooking, which I have been working on. And it sort of changed some of the recipes that I have been working on. And as a result, I use a good bit of coconut flour and some various rice recipes and rice vermicelli, Vietnamese rice vermicelli. And it really makes a very filling and delicious food for whatever you put it in.
So you're going the health route then, the healthy eating.
Well, yes and no. It's it's beneficial to the belly.
Yeah.
It makes you feel better, and the rice vermicelli is cool because it's very filling, and the carbohydrates uh, are absorbed slowly into your system instead of all at once. So you can have a dish with, like I made some last night. I put rice vermicelli in a, I'm not quite sure what it was, but there was some white rice in it, there was the vermicelli, and mixed vegetables that I had sauteed. And a little bowl of that, I'm telling you, you were full, and it was it's not high in calories, and I'm kind of looking at getting rid of some belly,
Yeah.
which unfortunately many of us who are retired from law enforcement could definitely use.
Yeah. I know that when you're young and you're very active, it takes a lot of food, and then ending that eating habit is difficult when your metabolism slows down. And I
Right.
certainly am challenged with it, trying
Uh,
to
One
sort
of those
through those
is
issues.
uh, the number of donuts that we ate over the years.
So true. So uh, you're doing some traveling. You're
Yes,
kind of a vagabond.
yes. We actually, you probably saw my post about the little Maverick truck that I bought.
Yeah.
Uh, it's something I ordered back in September, and it just wasn't being made, wasn't being scheduled for production, and I had to cancel that order. But I found the truck of all places in the Adirondack Mountains of New York. So we went up and got it, and it's pretty exciting. It's an exciting uh, truck in the respect that it gets. My average mileage is in the low 40s already, and but around town, I'm getting into 50s. It's 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 room for five, very comfortable to ride, uh, quiet as a mouse. I think Ford has really hit the nail on the head with this vehicle. I'd like to see more and more hybrid vehicles developed because I think my personal opinion is that EVs are they may work okay in big cities, as a city vehicle, but I'm not seeing this as a wave of the future. I don't think that's where we should be headed.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably, it's kind of a hot topic. I kind of fall on the side of that's not the right technology path to go down, but it's here. We're gonna have to deal with it for a while, assume.
They are. And for those that buy them, that's their business, and they have the money to buy them because they are very expensive. Uh, New York was going to institute uh, a policy that all school buses were going to be EV, and that would have been tragic, in my opinion, because it's the cold weather, which and when the school is on during the cold part of the year, and to have they cannot recharge them. They don't have the infrastructure to recharge them. So it would have been a situation where these buses could go out there and be halfway through the route and run out of electric. And worse is if that battery case is pierced, they could catch fire, and they would there'd be a lot of crispy critter kids, which would just be awful.
Yeah.
I mean, just beyond, I mean, we've all seen fatal accidents, and we've dealt with fatal accidents, and none of them are ever pleasant. Obviously, that would be a tragedy that I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
From the files of Bronco Hammer, man of violence. When the world faces obliteration from an enemy within, you need a man of violence to kill every last one of them. Man of Violence. Rated PG for patriotism and guts.
Are you originally from New York or Georgia or Florida, or where are your roots, or do you have any?
Born in upstate New York. That's where I first became a police officer, and did just about 15 years there. Got into sales, sold cars, and then moved to South Carolina, and continued. I sold manufactured housing, cars, uh, and I became a reserve officer with a small sheriff's office. And I was basically making more arrests than some of the full time guys. So the sheriff offered me a full time job, and I took it, and eventually moved from the county to the city, and retired in South Carolina.
I started out my career in a small sheriff's office, and you'd see reserve guys come in there and they'd set the world on fire. Some of them come in, it's like they were born to do it. And I think it's like for some of them, you had prior experience, but a lot of them, it's like a toe in the water to see if they can really make that leap, into doing it full time.
And it was funny. The sheriff was at the time in South Carolina, was a character, and he went up to one of the full time deputies and he said, "Do I have to send Chris out there to show you how to do this job?" I mean, it's brutal. And eventually, that particular deputy got fired for doing something really stupid. Although we never ever see that in law enforcement.
Yeah. Yeah. They, well, a lot of guys, we used to say they just go away, whether it's whatever the terminology might be used. Yeah, he went away, and
Really.
the people don't realize how closely police are supervised and controlled, and there's so many levels of management and supervision and so forth that it's probably the most uh, restricted and supervised profession in the country. I mean, judges don't have to go through all this stuff to get a judge job. They don't have to have a psychological exam and a medical exam and a physical exam and a lie detector test and probation. And
you're exactly right. And what in South Carolina, the thing that always got me is which level of justice had the biggest liability.
yeah,
The police officer.
yeah,
As you went up to magistrates, they had less liability, and then you had judges, less liability. And as it went up, they had, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court in South Carolina has no liability. I mean, she can do whatever she wants. I don't know if it's still a she, but it was at the time. And she was picked up for drunk driving several times and always got off. I mean, it was, well, there were all these mitigating circumstances, always.
yeah.
But if, the lower the pay, the higher the liability was. And it was just a shame to see it.
Yeah. I've always thought that most career paths, if they were supervised and disciplined like law enforcement, there wouldn't be anybody working in them because it's just, between direct supervision and then 4 or 5 lines of very close supervision and then internal affairs and then the newspapers and the mayor's office or the county trustees or commissioners. I mean, there's just layer after layer. And
Well, I guess we've all dealt with it for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Well, it's a fun career. I was glad to do it, and I do if I could.
I feel bad for the ones that are getting into it today because they're, like you say, there are so many levels of supervision and so many supervisors that are kind of clueless. They've gotten there because maybe they have a college degree.
Yeah.
They have no real road experience or practical experience or detective experience, and they just they sit there and make these decisions that are kind of asinine.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to paint with a wide brush on those guys. There's a lot of young guys coming in who are pretty squared away guys. So it's just their environment is brutal. I think scrutiny is the word I was looking for, the scrutiny each officer has upon them on the street. But
Yes.
I think over in the police conversation we'll be having later, we can delve into that probably a little deeper. Now, what's your next big plans? Do you have any big journeys scheduled up, or are you hitting the road again?
We very much hope to head to Arizona in April. Kind of on, we do RVing, and
Yes.
We used to travel with the RV all the time. Well, we got rid of the big truck and got the small truck, so we're thinking of loading up and in early April heading out to Arizona. We want to see the Grand Canyon. I'd like to travel a lot of Route 66, if at all possible. Hope to meet several of my Facebook friends in person who live in Arizona, and you and I are familiar with one in particular, actually a couple.
Yeah.
And I think that will be a lot of fun. And then slowly, spend a little time in Arizona, swing around and head northeast, and end up in New York, where we work for the summer from. Well, we'll get there in late April, get things going, get things set up at the campground, and then 1st of May to the last day of September, we run that, and it's great because it keeps us busy. It's interesting. You meet a lot of nice people, and that's a lot of fun. Until it's not fun, when it becomes not fun, we won't do it. But I don't see that. It's a question of staying as healthy as I can. My wife too, and we'll be fine.
Yep. Well, the Grand Canyon's quite a place to go. It's
Yes.
I actually dug that. A lot of people don't know that, but
Did you?
when I lived in Arizona, yeah, it wasn't there before, and
Ah,
I installed that so people would have some place to go.
my dad said he
Went through
flew
a
down
couple shovels
during,
doing it.
he flew a B-24 down there and during his training for being a pilot in World War II, but he must have been kind of fudging.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I wasn't there then, but it might have been a different canyon. I tell you what, when you're flying over that thing, going like the Phoenix to Vegas um, flight, and you hit the turbulence that comes over there, a lot of puking going on in the airplane. It's no kind of,
Really?
yeah, it gets real rough in the summertime because there's temperature differences or something that screws up the airplane. But it's it's a long drive. You're going to see a lot of empty space out there. Have you been out west before?
As a youngster, I lived in Reno.
Oh,
Uh,
well, yeah, that's as out west as it gets.
yeah, it's farther west than LA, which is an interesting factoid.
Yeah, a lot of people.
And my stepfather worked for a radio station, so I actually got my radio telephone license at age 14,
Oh, cool.
and worked weekends at a radio station in Reno. But my voice had not changed, so all of the recordings were done ahead of time. All I did was just turn dials and play tape and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
we got to go to Lake Tahoe and watch the national hydroplane races. Just fired all those big, huge hydroplanes that would do well over 100.
Cool.
And that was a lot of fun. Did that a couple of times. And we had rodeos in Reno, which were really neat to watch and broadcast all that stuff for the radio station. So I didn't get to say much, but I got to be there with
Yeah.
it all. Fun stuff.
Good fun. All right. Well, listen, I'm gonna let you go here at this point and try to figure out how to make this into something people can listen in on. And I think everybody is that follows the page are going to be interested in getting to see you and hear what you have to say and visiting with you a little bit, even though it's vicarious. I think they'll enjoy it. I always appreciate your comments and your support in the books. I'm very grateful for that. I've never been able to tell you that face to face as it is digitally, but at least I get to tell you face to face. Thank you so much for all your support, and
Oh, well,
very grateful for it.
Pleasure. I have enjoyed reading your books. I have laughed out loud so many times that I can't even count. And it's just a lot of fun. When we get into the police career thing in detail, more of it will come out, but it's that's exactly. I mean, there's so many things that I'm reading. I go, I did this, I did this, I did this, I saw this, and yeah, it's a lot of fun, and then we can get into some more war stories, and
That'd
we'll
be
try
fun.
to make sure that nobody is. Yeah, we don't libel anybody. You know?
Yeah. It's only libel if it's in writing. It's slander if it's spoken, right? So
that's true.
yeah. So yeah, I appreciate that. And you know, that makes me think of something you said about art. A lot of people don't realize that police work is more of an art than a science, and a lot of law enforcement, particularly retired ones, when you mentioned cooking as an art, um, a lot of officers uh, lean and have some pretty deep artistic sides. I've found over the years. I'm very surprised. There's two things I've found common, particularly to good police officers, the guys who you respect. One, they love animals, and
Yes.
two, they have an artistic side to them or an appreciation of something in some type of a artistic form. So it's
Well, that brings to mind Carlo de Blasio,
yeah,
who is he's a fisherman. He has developed that into an art form. It's fantastic.
mhm,
He I'm sure he loves animals. I've seen his posts when he lost his pet rabbit, and he said it left a giant-sized bunny hole in my heart. I
Oh.
just remember the words. And yes, I don't see how you could be a good police officer and hate animals. And another friend, Gary Zwerdling, who was a deputy in New York with me and is now retired in Florida. He has a dog he calls Zing, and he just that's his baby.
Yeah.
And we have our Zach, and he is he's just a hot mess. Love that dog. So I know what you're saying.
Yep.
Exactly.
That sounds good. Well, thanks for chatting with me for a little bit. I'll let you go now, and look forward to the next one, and I'll get in contact with you about that later.
Sounds perfect. Take
All
care.
right. Thanks, amigo. Ciao, ciao.